The bread you eat after 60 could be silently raising your risk of stroke, memory loss, and fatigue. Shocking studies reveal the worst breads for seniors can age your heart, while the right ones may add years to your life. In this video, you'll discover 4 breads seniors over 60 must avoid, and 4 of the best breads that support brain, heart, and blood sugar health. Now imagine this. It's a quiet morning. You're in your kitchen, reaching for the same bread you've been eating for years, maybe even decades. You toast it, spread on some butter or jam, and sit down like always. But here's what most people never stop to ask: what if that simple daily habit is quietly working against your health? Not just your waistline, but your heart, your memory, your energy, even your lifespan. It's not fear, it's fact. A long-term study from Harvard tracked 93,000 adults over the age of 60 and found that the type of bread you eat each day could increase or decrease your risk of heart disease by over 40%. And those who chose wisely, they lived over 7 years longer. That's not a diet trend. That's science. So today, I want to walk with you just like you're in the grocery store, staring at that long aisle of breads, and help you see what most people don't. Because after 60, your body doesn't digest bread the same way. What worked in your 40s might now be harming your arteries, spiking your 4 breads you should eat. After 64, sprouted grain bread, a gentle gift for aging digestion. You might walk past it in the frozen aisle tucked behind a layer of frost, sitting quietly among brighter, louder packages. It doesn't grab your attention. It doesn't promise low-fat or keto-friendly. But if you pause and really look, you'll find something far more valuable. A simple, ancient food that speaks directly to the needs of your aging body. Sprouted grain bread is not just another bread. It's a return to a tradition that goes back thousands of years. Long before food factories and preservatives, people soaked their grains, letting them sprout, letting them come alive. This natural process breaks down the grain's tough outer shell, releases enzymes, and unlocks nutrients that would otherwise remain hidden. It's as if the bread becomes wiser, just like you have. And as a health professional who has worked with older adults for decades, I can tell you, digestion is often one of the first things to quietly shift after 60. Bloating after meals, a heavy, unsettled feeling in the gut. What once felt nourishing begins to feel burdensome. But here's the good news. In one clinical study, seniors who switched to sprouted grain bread for just 8 weeks reported not only less bloating, but also improved regularity and comfort after meals. Their bodies were working with the bread, not against it. What's more, sprouted bread has a glycemic index of just 36, remarkably low for bread. It stabilizes blood sugar, avoiding the spikes and crashes that drain your energy and cloud your thinking. And there's one more quiet benefit: 3 authentic sourdough bread. Old world wisdom for a modern gut. Sourdough isn't just a memory from your childhood kitchen, the aroma floating through the air, the crackling crust, the warm center. For many of us, it brings back moments of comfort. But for those of us over 60, sourdough can be more than nostalgia. It can be medicine. What makes true sourdough so remarkable isn't what's added, but what time takes away. Real sourdough is made slowly, patiently. It begins with a wild starter, a living mix of wild yeast and friendly bacteria. As the dough ferments, these microbes begin breaking down the harder-to-digest compounds in wheat, like gluten and phytic acid. These are often the very things that make modern bread feel heavy or upsetting to your gut. This natural fermentation doesn't just improve taste and texture, it transforms how your body receives it. A study from the University of Toronto found that older adults who switched from standard bread to authentic sourdough had less than half the blood sugar spike. That's a dramatic shift for anyone managing prediabetes, fatigue, or brain fog. But the benefits go beyond blood sugar. Sourdough leaves behind prebiotics compounds that feed the good bacteria in your gut. And those bacteria play a major role in supporting your immune system, your mood, and even your memory. Not all sourdoughs are created equal, though. Avoid those labeled sourdough flavor or made with commercial yeast. Look instead for a crust that's dark and blistered, a crumb that's chewy and open, and ingredients you can pronounce. For breakfast, try 2 slices with avocado and a soft-boiled egg. It's not just delicious, it's deeply grounding. A quiet form of nourishment that honors both the science of digestion and the wisdom of tradition. Because sometimes, the best health choices come from looking back so we can move forward with strength. 2. Rye bread, the understated ally for heart and blood. Sugar rye doesn't demand attention. It's not trendy or fashionable. It doesn't line the shelves in shiny wrappers or boast miracle claims. And yet, for those of us navigating life after 60, rye may quietly be one of the most powerful choices you can make. What sets rye apart is not just its heritage, it's what it offers to your heart, your blood sugar, and your digestion. Inside rye is a unique kind of soluble fiber called arabinoxylan. It works like a natural filter in your gut, binding excess cholesterol and gently escorting it out of your system before it ever has a chance to cause harm. In Finland, where rye bread is part of daily life, researchers tracked older adults who added just 2 slices of whole-grain rye bread to their meals each day. Within 3 months, they experienced a 16% drop in LDL cholesterol and a 22% drop in fasting insulin levels, and they didn't have to change anything else. But the benefits of rye aren't just clinical, they're deeply practical. Many people in their 60s quietly deal with constipation or irregularity. Often, they chalk it up to age. But in reality, it's usually a lack of real fiber, the kind you don't get from soft white bread or refined wheat. Rye, particularly the dense, dark kind made from whole-grain flour, gets things moving again naturally, gently, and effectively. Now, a word of caution. Not every bread labeled rye is what it seems. Some are mostly white flour with a touch of rye and some caramel coloring. Look for labels that list whole rye flour first. It should be dark, firm, and slightly tangy to the taste. Once you give it a real try, rye tends to win people over for good. It pairs beautifully with smoked salmon, with nut butters, even with a bowl of warm vegetable soup. It keeps your energy even, your digestion calm. 1 to 100% whole grain seeded bread. The longevity loaf. This one is my personal favorite, not just as a health professional, but as someone who has watched people transform their lives with the simplest of changes. Because when it comes to bread, this is the one I recommend most often. Not because it's trendy, but because it works. 100% whole grain seeded bread isn't just bread. It's a quiet revolution on your plate. With every slice, you're feeding more than your hunger. You're feeding your future. Each loaf is packed with whole grains, not stripped, not enriched, not disguised, just real, intact grains. Then layered with seeds like pumpkin, sunflower, chia, and sesame. These aren't toppings. They're medicine in disguise. Zinc and magnesium for your immune system. Omega-3s for your brain and joints. Fiber for your blood sugar. It's the kind of nutritional synergy that pills can't replicate. A landmark 15-year study from Copenhagen followed more than 18,000 adults over 60. Those who made this bread a daily staple lived nearly 5 years longer, with not just longer life, but better life. They scored higher in vitality, mobility, and mental clarity. Why? Because this bread works at the cellular level, fighting inflammation, protecting DNA, and keeping your metabolism steady. And in a world full of crash diets and gimmicks, that kind of consistent support is rare and precious. But be careful. Not all breads that say whole grain truly are. Many multigrain or wheat breads are made mostly from refined flour. Flip the label. Make sure the first ingredient is 100% whole grain flour. Try it toasted, topped with avocado and egg, or sliced into a salad with olive oil and lemon. However you enjoy it, this bread is one small, delicious act of self-respect. Because every bite we take after 60 becomes a choice not just for today, but for the years still ahead. 4 breads to completely avoid. After 64, white bread, the familiar comfort that quietly undermines you. It's soft. It's familiar. It's what many of us grew up with. White toast with butter in the morning, a sandwich with the crusts cut off in the afternoon, maybe even warm rolls with dinner. It's tied to comfort, to simplicity, to tradition. But here's the quiet truth. As we get older, the foods that once felt harmless may no longer serve us the way they used to. White bread has been stripped of almost everything the body needs to thrive. The parts of the grain that carry the fiber, the B vitamins, the healthy oils, the bran, and the germ are removed. What's left behind is refined starch. And refined starch behaves a lot like sugar once it enters your body. It digests rapidly, spikes your blood sugar, then drops it just as fast, leaving you fatigued, unfocused, and often craving more. But it's not just about feeling tired. Study after study has shown that frequent white bread consumption is associated with a higher risk of type 2 diabetes, weight gain around the middle, and even faster cognitive decline. It doesn't happen overnight. But over weeks, months, and years, those quiet slices add up. Not in joy, but in damage. In my own clinic, I've had patients who felt exhausted and mentally foggy. They thought it was just part of aging. But when we looked deeper, when we traced their daily habits, we found the culprit sitting innocently on the kitchen counter. That same loaf they'd trusted for decades was now quietly working against them. If it's the texture you miss, the softness, there are better options. Whole grain sourdough is a gentle transition. It offers depth, fiber, and a softer experience that still feels comforting, but without the blood sugar roller coaster or the nutrient void. Because at this stage of life, what you eat should feed your strength, not your symptoms. The bread you choose. 3. Sweetbreads and pastries. The morning treat with a hidden toll. There's something undeniably comforting about a sweet roll with your morning coffee. A warm cinnamon bun, a glazed slice of raisin bread, or that soft Danish from the little bakery down the street. These foods feel like joy, like a reward, like a gentle indulgence that connects you with the simple pleasures of life. And let's be honest, many of us have enjoyed them for decades without a second thought. They've become part of our rhythm, part of our morning ritual. They feel familiar, safe, even innocent. But here's the truth that often goes unspoken. What your body could once tolerate with ease now comes with a higher cost. And with age, that cost becomes harder to ignore. Sweetbreads and pastries are typically made with a trio of health saboteurs: refined flour, added sugars, and processed fats. These ingredients combine to deliver a surge of sweetness and softness, but they also trigger a rapid spike in blood sugar, followed by an equally sharp crash. That crash leaves you feeling hungry, irritable, and drained right when you need energy and clarity to start your day. Over time, it adds up. A comprehensive review published in The Lancet revealed that adults over 60 who consumed sugary baked goods more than 4 times a week had a 44% higher risk of developing metabolic syndrome. That includes high blood pressure, elevated blood sugar, and poor cholesterol levels, silent conditions that often lead to serious outcomes like heart disease, stroke, or cognitive decline. But it doesn't stop with numbers on a chart. Excess sugar has also been linked to accelerated joint pain, premature skin aging, and a measurable rise in depression and anxiety among older adults. Why? Because sugar doesn't just affect your waistline, it sends ripple effects through your hormones, your inflammation levels, even your brain chemistry. Still, none of this means you need to live without joy. It simply means you need to reclaim the joy of eating by choosing foods that love you back. A slice of homemade banana, 2 potato bread, the health halo. That doesn't hold up. The name sounds innocent enough. Potatoes are vegetables, right? They grow in the ground, they're part of hearty homemade meals, and they've got that comforting, familiar feel. So when you hear potato bread, it's easy to assume it must be a healthier, softer, easier to digest choice, especially compared to traditional white bread. But here's where things get tricky. Most potato breads on the market are little more than white bread in disguise, with a touch of potato starch and a heavy dose of illusion. Commercial potato bread is often made with refined wheat flour, dehydrated potato flakes, added sugar, and processed oils. And while it might feel soft and satisfying going down, it digests incredibly fast, even faster than standard white bread. The result? Rapid spikes in insulin and blood sugar, followed by that all-too-familiar crash that leaves you tired, hungry, and foggy-headed. In fact, a study published in the Journal of Geriatric Cardiology found that older adults who ate potato bread 3 or more times a week experienced higher insulin resistance, increased belly fat, and lower metabolic flexibility, all warning signs of prediabetes, chronic fatigue, and sluggish recovery. But it doesn't stop there. What surprises most people is the hidden sugar. Many potato bread brands add 2 to 3 teaspoons of sugar per slice, not to make it taste sweet, but to enhance the color and softness. That sugar isn't listed in bold, but your body notices every gram. Now, if you genuinely enjoy the soft, tender bite of potato bread, you're not alone. I've worked with many older adults who say it's their favorite. But here's the better news. You can have the texture you love without sacrificing your health. Try making your own version at home. Blend real mashed potatoes with 100% whole wheat flour, olive oil, and a touch of sea salt. You'll still get that moist, pillowy texture, but with far more fiber, minerals like potassium and magnesium, and a dramatically better impact on your blood sugar. And above all, remember this: softness is not the same as nourishment. The breads that do the most for your body often have a bit more chew, a bit more texture, and a whole lot more to offer. Because at this stage in life, your energy is too valuable to be drained by something disguised as healthy. Choose the version of comfort that doesn't come with consequences. 1. Gluten-free white bread, made from starches, the most misleading loaf of all. This one may surprise you. Over the past decade, gluten-free foods have become something of a health trend. Grocery stores now dedicate full aisles to gluten-free labels, and many people, especially older adults, have made the switch in hopes of feeling lighter, clearer, or more energized. And for those with celiac disease or a diagnosed gluten sensitivity, gluten-free bread serves a very real and necessary purpose. It protects their gut, their immune system, and their long-term health. But here's the part that's rarely talked about: gluten-free doesn't automatically mean healthy. In fact, many gluten-free white breads are nutritionally worse than traditional white bread. Instead of using whole grains, these breads are usually made from refined starches like white rice flour, potato starch, tapioca starch, and sometimes cornstarch. These ingredients digest quickly, far too quickly, and deliver a flood of glucose into your bloodstream. What you're left with is a loaf that's soft, bland, and almost entirely stripped of fiber, protein, or lasting nourishment. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed older adults who ate gluten-free white bread daily for 6 months. The results were concerning: a 54% greater spike in blood sugar, along with increased LDL cholesterol and inflammation markers. But it didn't stop at lab values. Participants also reported more joint pain, more interrupted sleep, and higher levels of anxiety, all signs of metabolic stress and hormonal imbalance. It's likely due to the way these fast-digesting starches affect not just the blood, but the gut microbiome, where mood and inflammation are often regulated. I've seen this firsthand. Well-meaning patients in their 60s or 70s who gave up traditional bread hoping to feel better, only to find themselves more bloated, more tired, and more discouraged than before. If you truly need to avoid gluten, and only if you do, there are better options. Choose breads made from whole grain brown rice, quinoa, buckwheat, millet, or teff. These grains digest more slowly, offer more fiber and minerals, and work with your body rather than against it. And always read the ingredient list. If it starts with a string of starches you can't pronounce, or if the first 3 ingredients are powders and gums, it's a sign to walk away. Now that you know the truth, take a moment to let it settle. Bread isn't just food, it's a daily decision, one that either nourishes your body or quietly steals from it. And at this stage of life, when every choice matters more, those quiet thieves have no place on your plate. So here's a gentle challenge from me to you. Walk into your kitchen today. Open your pantry or your freezer. Pick up that loaf you've been reaching for out of habit. Turn it over. Read the label. What's the first ingredient? If you see enriched flour, starch, or words you don't recognize, that loaf isn't feeding your future. It's only filling the moment. But you deserve more than that. You deserve bread that supports your memory, your heart, your blood sugar, your energy for the people and the moments you still want to be fully present for. Because here's the beautiful truth. You don't need to eat less. You just need to eat wiser. And sometimes, wisdom starts with a new loaf. If this video opened your eyes or helped you in any way, I'd be honored if you gave it a like, shared it with someone you care about, maybe a friend over 60 who's still eating white bread every morning. And I'd truly love to hear from you in the comments. What bread are you choosing this week to fuel your next chapter? You see, the best years aren't behind you. Like the right loaf, they're still rising. And I'll be here, cheering you on one smart choice at a time.